Hello, hello, hello. Welcome in, welcome in. Hopefully everybody's doing all right out there. It has been very warm for like everybody across the country, and it's been very beautiful back over here in the eastern United States. But hello, hello, hello. We're breathing everyone's wildfire smoke again yeah. Yeah, that wildfire smoke is gonna be coming in. Let me make sure we're live. Yes, we are live. Always gotta double check. Hello, 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 welcome in. Let me turn on, actually we probably don't need subscriber only mode right now. Indeed live. That made me question for a little bit. I said hello and no one said hello back. Hello, hello. Went from heater to air conditioner real quick. Yeah, it's hot outside. It was 85 degrees in northern Alabama today. I did a little bit of golfing earlier today, and I was definitely sweating. Hello, hello, hello. Hi, hello. You're in eastern Kentucky. Well, welcome in. I think you're in the right place. So hot in Omaha. Yeah, it's a little bit toasty. A little bit toasty out there. I was looking at the observations today. I mean, folks are getting up into 90s, near 100s across a lot of the central United States. And back over here, you can also see got some hundreds creeping in there for some folks in parts of Arizona as well. 85s in the southeast too. I mean, it's looking like spring, and actually for some folks it's already looking like summer. Which is not surprising given the global heating regimen that we are in currently. Hello, hello, hello. Pittsburgh is tired of this crap. Well, I'm sorry. More willing to share this than chill. I do agree with that. I do agree with that. It has been beautiful down here in the southeast. 85. I'll take 98 degrees over below 50 any time of the year. At least I can go outside and be comfortable. It's always summer. Where do you live? Yeah, if you guys can already tell, we're going to be covering doing a little forecast. A live breakdown is what is going to be happening tomorrow, as we do have a slight risk out there. It's not going to be anything like super duper crazy, obviously. I might go live just to go live tomorrow to cover this, but I'm not expecting like much of a tornado threat tomorrow. But we could get some pretty large hail, some 2-inch hail and above, and some damaging winds. So I thought, we should at least talk about this and answer people's questions, if there are any. Bowling Green, Kentucky, I guess we're in for another breezy Sunday, just a little bit. Nothing too crazy, I don't think, for most of Kentucky. In my opinion, the perfect temperature is 72 degrees. That's not a bad opinion to have. That is kind of the perfect temperature. I think I can agree with you in that. Am I gonna do severe weather forecast for spring? No, not gonna do that. Forecasting that far out is hogwash. It's never correct. So no. I'm not gonna make a video to lie to you guys. Just not gonna do that. Can I order up some rain? Yeah, let me check Uber Eats and see if there's any rain options for the Southwest. Or the Southeast. Yeah. Oh yeah, we are in quite a drought pattern right now as well. Quite the drought pattern. What else is I looking at? Oh yeah, I also found this. The satellite imagery. We got a lot of smoke starting to cover a couple of areas. We got some probably prescribed burns happening over here in the southeast, and probably some legitimate fires back over here further west. And you can actually see that smoke is pretty much covering the entirety of the southeast. It's not a very thick layer of smoke, but if you do get a little bit more beautiful of a sunset than usual, that's probably why. Also, we have added a follow button and I've also been just trying to make a whole bunch of performance enhancements to the app as well. You respect that? Yeah. I mean, I could make a forecast, but it's just not going to be accurate. Like no one's forecast is going to be accurate. Like using analogs can be helpful, but especially now that we were 1.5 degrees Celsius above average across the entire globe right now, those analogs are not going to be as accurate. So you really are going out on a limb to try to make a spring forecast, and you might give people the wrong idea if you accidentally give off too much confidence. But I mean, I think if you were to watch a severe weather forecast or like for a long term, I would definitely suggest Convective Chronicles. If anybody's going to get close to being right, it's going to be him. But I mean, it's still, even somebody as smart as Trey Greenwood also struggles to nail down any exact details. I don't know if spring's going to be plum wild. I do not know. I do not. It could be, who knows, man. It really just depends. I mean, you can have all the analogs you want, but if you don't get the storms, then you're not going to really see too much. Or if you get storms in an area where there's just a lot of instability, and it's a definitely strong storm with a decent amount of shear, not a whole lot of capping inversion, which I do think might be an issue this year. We are getting a lot of drought out there in the western United States. The EML could be particularly strong. We might see a little bit more structured type storms in places we usually don't see them, like over in the southeast, but we'll see what happens. I mean, it's so hard to nail down. I mean, analogs do help. They do help a little bit, but with the world changing so much and the atmosphere changing so much, they're going to become less and less helpful and less reliable. And to be honest, they're not really that reliable in the first place. A few days out, let alone a month in advance. Exactly. Feels like we skipped spring entirely. It does, doesn't it? Yeah. I made a post yesterday on X and I got absolutely reamed, but I really do think if we keep this up for like another 5 years, we're going to be seeing warm fronts all the way up in Canada pretty often, and going into March and April. Howdy. Should you be concerned about Monday for Wilmington, North Carolina, or later next week? I'm not really seeing a big threat down there. There is a little chance, but again, what we're tracking here is basically just a kind of disconnected frontal boundary that's not going to really have a whole lot of kinematics around it. There is going to be some instability down here. There is going to be some weak forcing, so you could get some severe weather, but nothing that's really popping up on my radar for that severe weather risk that looks anything concerning. Science denial on Twitter, right? No, what surprised me is that it was a lot of folks. I'm not sure if like I accidentally pissed off like a group on Discord that is staunchly against climate change or not, but it was crazy. It was nuts. Like none of them came in and like actually gave any rebuttals. They all just called me a poo-poo head pretty much. It was like the most childish thing I've ever seen. And it's like, that's a lot of our community apparently, which is kind of crazy. But all right, folks, go ahead and come over here to Weather Circle, put your little dots on the map here, make a little post over here in the Hangout so we can see you guys on the map, and we'll be going over what tomorrow's forecast is going to be looking like. We're going to go over the models, and it's probably not going to be too long of a stream, as this isn't like a super high caliber day, but there is one significant threat that we do have to look out for. Probably a ton of bots. I can't tell nowadays. It could be AI, could be regular bots, could actually be humans. Whoever it was, they were acting like an absolute child. So I think a lot of them, I knew a couple of the names, and a lot of them were actually adults. I just missed you. Yeah, I did. Maybe a little bit secretly. That's why I might go live tomorrow just to kind of hang out. Wouldn't completely rule out like an enhanced risk, but I think that's on a lower end. Now we got a couple people in our severe risk going into tomorrow. I'll wait just a little bit longer, but the only reason I'm stalling right now is so that you guys can come in and put your little post bubbles on the map. Emily says it's a beautiful day in Dayton, Ohio. All right. Chessie says, nice spring weather here. Temps under 70s. Ooh, where's that at? What? Is that at night? Wow. Hey, you guys have been getting it nice down there. For your coverage? Yeah, no problem. No problem. Thank you for tuning in. Posted to get your bubble. There you go. There you go. We're thinking with the brains tonight. North Grandma, do I bring the goose? Depends on where you're going. Depends on where you're going. How do you do that? Let me get the link for you really quick. Oh, always does that when I go on, open another tab with the same account. There we go. There, and then put it in chat. So here is the link. Come over to that link, and then you just come over to the Hangout at the top. It'll say Hangout. You click on that, and then it'll pop up, and you'll be able to see people's posts. Well, someone made a cool post earlier. I think it was Taylor Wren. Yeah, check this out. They posted this earlier. Look at that. Kind of looks like a little bit of Virga, and then you got like maybe a rainbow trying to happen. There were some severe thunderstorm warning in Virginia. And then you had this post. Nice. That is pretty darn, that's a pretty darn spicy photo for Tennessee. Supposed to get snow tonight with the possible of some freezing drizzle and rain. Oh yeah, there was a little system up there, wasn't there? Yep, it's almost there. Almost there, Gray Hen. You get a couple of inches out of that. You are an organism. Yes. That is so cool for things like that. I do agree. I do agree. All right, has everybody got their post bubble on the map, or are there some folks that are still wanting me to wait? Because I can wait as long as you want, as long as you need. Hello, hello, Mr. Night Rush or Mrs. Night Rush. Yeah, nope, need 3 to 5 business days to get me to do anything. You must be in weekend mode. I feel ya. Although I will say it's been a very relaxing March, like end of the March. Very relaxing. Post the bubble on the map. Yeah, so you come here, you go to weathercircle.app, you click on that, and then you come up to the top. Let me make this small or smaller so you can see what I'm talking about. So at the top here, there's a little hangout area. You just click on hangout, it'll bring up the public hangout, and then you click post, and then you just type in what you want to post, click on the media if you have any media to share or not, and then come over to what's happening, press post, and then it'll put your little bubble on the map. And if it doesn't do that, you do have to go to profile and make sure you have public profile and share location with posts if you do want to make sure that it 100% gets posted on the map. Sounds too low. Don't think so. Try turning up your volume. I will kind of say on laptops, it's kind of low. My sound? I could turn it up a little bit. You talking about like my mic? Your volume is maxed out and still we quiet. On your laptop, you're at 100%. Huh. I mean, I'm almost peaking out. I could turn it up just like to that, but I don't want it to redline. All All right, so let's go ahead and start this up. I think we've given people plenty of time. So this is what we're talking about. We have got a slight risk. This is going to be for tomorrow going into Sunday. We've got a slight risk, which is a 2 out of 5 for severe weather. So if you guys do live in this area from southern Indiana, even little tiny parts over there in Illinois, northern Kentucky, Ohio, over there in West Virginia, Pennsylvania, also back over there into Maryland and Wilmington, we're talking about Squashy. Mad Magpie, Alice, North Grandma, Melody, Faith G. Jones, Emily Finch, and Wrath the Dam in this slight risk for severe weather. In the marginal risk, which is a 1 out of 5, so nothing really to be too scared about, but definitely a day to be weather aware, is Ezzy over there into North Carolina. And so, yeah, little elevated chance for severe weather going into tomorrow. In terms of our tornado risk, there it is. We do have a 2% chance for tornadoes tomorrow. That's going to be over there near Bloomington, Louisville, Covington, Columbus. So Emily, North Grandma, Alice, Mad Magpie, and Squashy. Winchester, Cumberland, Johnstown, State College, Pittsburgh, Harrisburg, and York are all in that 2%. So again, tomorrow is not really like a big day for tornadoes. That's why I have opted not to put a tornado on my thumbnail. But we could get some pretty big hailers going into tomorrow. We do have an area back over here near Columbus, Emily Finch, Wheeling, Pittsburgh, Johnstown, State College, Harrisburg, York, and Morgantown and Cumberland. That's North Grandma, Melody, Alice, and Emily Finch could be in that significant risk for 2-inch hail and above. That's probably going to be our biggest risk for tomorrow. Is going to be that hail threat. And then just north of Wilmington, you got Mad Magpie over there with a 15% chance for quarter-sized hail. And then south and west of Bloomington, you got Rotterdam. And Bloomington is also in that 15%. Around that is going to be a 5% chance for some hail of up to quarter-sized. Our wind risk now going into tomorrow is also going to be a little bit elevated for some folks. We do have a 15% chance for damaging winds. That's going to be over there near Louisville, Bloomington, Covington, Emily Finch, Rotterdam, Columbus, Wheeling, Pittsburgh, Morgantown, Cumberland, Johnstown, State College, Harrisburg, and York. Mad Magpie, Alice, North Grandma, and Melody. Faith G. Jones could have a 5% chance for those 50 or 60 mile per hour winds. And so does Ezzy over there. So again, not a super dangerous day tomorrow, but definitely a day to pay attention. Back over for today, we do have a little marginal risk over there near KT, Tyler, Wren, and Tiffany. So you guys do need to be watching out for some severe weather. And then going into day 3, Augusta, Columbia, Savannah, Charleston, Myrtle Beach, and Wilmington are also in a 1 out of 5 for severe weather. Not only that, folks, we're going to be talking about some heat. Lots of heat out there, especially across the western and central portions of the United States. Can we look at this? Is this gonna work? For some reason, this hasn't been working on Pivotal Weather, and I don't know why. It's a little bit annoying. Let me, this is why I have this up and ready here. We can go to Weather Scam, Outlooks, and then bam, temperature. Is that right? No, that's not it. There we go. Temperature. So over the next 6 to 10 days, we are talking about some really warm temperatures. Really back over here in Arizona is where our highest percent chance of above average temperature. It's a 90% chance. Going into New Mexico, Colorado, Utah, parts of Nevada, Las Vegas, and Los Angeles. We're going to be seeing some really warm temperatures over there, and still some above average temperatures going into California, Wyoming, going down into Louisiana, Arkansas, and then you really anywhere from the West Coast back down over here into North Carolina, through parts of the Midwest, going into the Ozark Valley and into the Southeast. We are still talking about some elevated warm temperatures being possible out there. And then as we go into day 8 to 14, that dome is of high pressure is still going to be present. So it's going to be hot for a lot of folks, which is going to keep our severe weather risk relatively low. But let's come over here to the EPS model really quick and look at some of our height anomalies out there. So as you can see, we do have a high pressure back over here into the western United States. It's a pretty strong high pressure. That's why those temperatures are so high. And eventually we're going to start to see that spread more into the eastern United States and further into the future. That is kind of just going to be the pattern going into Tuesday, going into Thursday, going into Friday. You see that high pressure system just sticks around. We don't really get any real intrusions of some lower pressure systems. But then as we get into about April 1st, we start to see a sign of that high pressure system moving off to the east, and then eventually we start to see a low pressure come back into range here. But this is only one ensemble, which is an average. Let's check our other averages, and it seems like most of our averages are kind of either agreeing on that high pressure system moving more to the east and some more low pressure anomalies popping back in there to the western United States, which again is more favorable for severe weather, because around these systems, if we come and turn on our pen, you know, the air wraps around a high pressure system like this. Around a low pressure system, it's like this. These will kind of work together to pull some warmth and moisture out of the Gulf of Mexico. And if we get any of these low pressure systems to eject kind of into this area, or maybe a little bit further to the south, and tap into that moisture and bring some cooler air from the north and some drier air out of the Pacific Southwest, all of that is going to combine for some potential for some severe weather. So I do see some signals, and I wouldn't say it's 100% agreement, but we do have some decent agreement from all of our ensembles that a pattern flip could happen sometime at the beginning of April. So you know, are we going to start it off with a bang and, you know, start to see a whole bunch of tornadoes, you know, happen at the beginning of April? Probably not. We'll probably see a couple maybe weaker systems at first, and then maybe it builds, or it could be vice versa. But the bottom line is that the overall environment is going to be having a more favorable look for some severe potential as we go into the beginning of April. But yeah, so let's come back over to our HRRR model here and kind of break down what we are expecting with tomorrow's storm. So as I bring this, this is the upper level winds in the 500 millibar range. And as you can see, we are mainly going to have some northerly flow in our upper level winds, especially going into you know, Sunday or Saturday going into Sunday. You can see that northerly flow kind of flattens out a little bit. And as that continues to eject into the area, eventually we see our jet stream kind of start to sink a little bit further down to the south. If you look at our wind barbs a little bit higher in our atmosphere, you can see that we do have winds going this way in our 500 millibars, and to the south, they're going this way. Again, that creates that little void there where we're going to be watching for some forcing, which will force our storms to rise as air is forced to fill into that little void that is created by our upper level wind pattern. So it is right in this area where we're going to be watching out for a little bit of a stalled boundary to kind of propagate down to the south, and kind of a lower level low pressure system as well. If we come down with the 500 millibar range, though, you really can't see any low pressure in the upper levels, because it's mainly just south or northwestern to southeastern flow kind of piling over this area. You can actually see some of those storms start to reach up into those stronger winds going into Sunday night as that frontal boundary forms here. So that is our upper level pattern for tomorrow. Our lower level pattern, we are going to have some wind shear along that boundary, and you can see that we do have a little bit of a low pressure system form back over there just north of Lake Erie, bringing some lower level winds to the area. But you could see as we go into Sunday afternoon, our lower level shear really does get a lot weaker. We're only talking about 34 to 30 or 43 knots. And you can also tell that our winds on the leading edge of this are going to be going in this direction, right? And if we come back up to the 500 millibar range, you can see that our winds here are kind of moving generally in the same way. Maybe a little bit of perpendicularity, but not enough to really be concerned for an organized tornado threat. We are mainly talking about that potential with the lower level shear being a little bit less, and with a decent amount of instability, we could be talking about some decent sized hailers, especially back over here into Ohio and parts of Pennsylvania. But yeah, that's generally what we're looking at in terms of our upper level wind pattern. In terms of our moisture, For tomorrow, you can see that if I push this forward, you can see got some cooler, drier air up further to the north. That's going to be pushing down to the south and kind of pushing into a little bit of moisture. But I mean, we're only talking about 55, 54, maybe some pockets out there of 61-degree dew points. Let's look at these soundings here really quick. Yeah, almost completely parallel winds all the way across the board, and also a very skinny cape profile where those storms are potentially firing, and also -2 or 129 on the SIN. I mean the CIN, that's the capping inversion. So that is indicating that we're gonna have a little bit of capping in place that's gonna try to keep our storms in check. So not the best environment, even for severe weather, but there are some little pockets up there. If a storm could tap into that, could be an issue. Let's go look at some of our other models. The HDPRS, maybe a little bit more higher moisture here with the NSSL. Not as much on the on that. Now the NAM model, a lot of people have been talking about the NAM model being super concerning for tomorrow. I've seen a lot of hype posts on that, but as you can see, the NAM model is completely on an island. I mean, at this point, it is trying to compete for a prize on Gilligan's Island, as we're just not, no model agrees with the NAM. So the NAM is on an island of its own. It is drunk, it is on drugs, it needs therapy, and potentially even some rehab, yeah, that's not gonna happen. Just not gonna happen. It's gonna be much drier of an environment. Our model agreement is pretty substantial on that. So generally overall, though, we could see some 60-degree dew points and up into 50-degree dew points up there as well. So, you know, and not the worst environment. We are gonna have some cooler temperatures aloft, which if we come over to our kind of mid-level lapse rates, you can see that this is kind of cool, actually. If we come over to our forecast period, so we've been having a lot of drier air kind of build up in the west. And when you have some cooler, drier air aloft, your lapse rates can get pretty intense. And, you know, we're going to start to see that kind of push also back over into the Ohio Valley as we move into Sunday. And our lapse rates are going to be pretty decent in our mid levels. And if we come down a little bit further down to the surface, you can see that, I mean, we're talking about potentially 8-degree lapse rates, which if we do get, you know, thunderstorms to fire, those updrafts, we'll have some pretty strong updrafts inside of those storms, and that will help with the hail protection of these storms. And also, you know, some decent instability there as well. If we come over to our surface-based cape, you can see that back over here near Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio, and northern Kentucky, we definitely have more instability here. Back over here near Pennsylvania, though, it starts off pretty decent, and then by the time our storms get started and kind of sink down to the south and east, you can see that goes away pretty quickly. So there's a good chance that as we go into the nighttime hours, a lot of our storms will be weakening, as we're just not going to have a whole lot left in the atmosphere to kind of fuel these storms after 8 p.m. One of the things, though, that we are going to be watching for tomorrow as well, it's kind of not a guaranteed forecast here. Across the board here, all the way from Illinois going into Indiana and Ohio and also into Pennsylvania, we're going to have a pretty stout capping inversion. If we compare this to other models, you can see there's some pretty decent agreement on that capping inversion. So, you know, the storms will have to combat with that. But one of the things that this can kind of do, especially in tomorrow's environment where we do have some decent lapse rates, some decent instability, that can kind of keep all the crapvection from firing. And, you know, it's like putting a cap on a boiling pot. You know, all that pressure and steam kind of builds up under there, and then as soon as you release it, which the models do indicate eventually our cap breaks, you know, you can get some pretty strong storms fire and build pretty quickly. So that's one of the main things we are concerned about. Again, a lot of these storms will probably not be able to be tornadic, not really surface based. We're probably talking about more elevated supercells with the potential for very large hail and some damaging winds with this kind of environment. But you know, back over here in Pennsylvania and Ohio, that is kind of the area that we're really watching for the most. Let me see if I can get a decent sounding out of this area. Yeah, that's a little bit contaminated, but you can kind of see the picture here. A very skinny cape profile near the surface, pretty low LCLs, and a decently fat, or not, I would say not skinny, in between fat and skinny, there of our cape profile. Decent lower level cape, 1100 in the mixed layer, and then 8.9 degree lapse rates near the surface. So if any storm can poke through that cap, like our models are indicating, definitely could have a dangerous hail threat associated with it. So let's come back over to our composite reflectivity and do a little bit more of a zoomed in view on some of these arrows. We'll focus back over here in Illinois and Indiana and Ohio, and then we'll look over there in Pennsylvania with a little bit more detail. But yeah, that capping inversion will likely hold for most of Ohio until we get into about 7 p.m. Where we will see some stronger storms fire back over there. But our cap is definitely stronger further to the west. It is possible that we don't see that break at all, but technically if the environment is there to support some stronger severe storms if that cap breaks earlier. So it's definitely more of a conditional day back over here near Illinois going into Indiana than it really is going to be over there near Ohio and Pennsylvania. I would still say it's relatively conditional in comparison to if there was no cap in place. Sometimes, even though a lot of our models are indicating that there's just not a whole lot happening, that models can be wrong, or if they say the cap is definitely going to break, and then during the day when it actually happens, you don't really see much. You can see some models are indicating that the cap holds all the way until about 5 to 6 p.m. on some of these models, like the HWRF. The HWRF ARW says that as well. GSL also MPAS says that. The NSL MPAS also says that. There's a lot of models that are indicating that that capping inversion might not break at all. So tomorrow could be a non-threat, to be honest. But if the capping does break and we do see some stronger storms fire, then I would at least know that potential is there tomorrow, and just be prepared to bring your car or like pets indoors if we do get some pretty large hailstorms. Now, coming back over into over near Pennsylvania and a little bit closer to the northeast, let's go ahead and look at what our models are saying. So going into about 5-6 p.m., see that cap start to break further off to the east, and we have a lot of cells out here that could have some hail potential. Also some damaging wind potential as well. Again, our tornado risk is going to be pretty low with this event, but you can see that a little bit higher of a likelihood further off to the east that our cap breaks, and we do see some storms fire. But let's go check this with some of our other models as well. And you can see, a decent amount of our models. There is a couple like this one right here that holds that cap off to probably until it's a little bit too late. Yeah, there's still a decent amount of models, though. I would say a little bit more agreement on the eastern side over here into Pennsylvania than over there into Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio. But there are still some models that show nothing firing. So, I usually don't like to pay too much attention to the precipitation on models. The bottom line is, if this line forms all the way from Pennsylvania down to Ohio into Indiana and Illinois, and that entire cap breaks, we could see some damaging wind and hail all the way back there. It really just depends on if that cap can break, and just how strong is our forcing. Can the forcing overcome it? A lot of different factors there, but I would say the best bet to potentially see severe weather tomorrow is going to be over there in Pennsylvania. Second best bet is going to be over there into parts of southeastern Ohio, and then maybe a 50-50 chance for Indiana and Illinois. So I would be weather aware tomorrow. Again, we're not thinking anything too bad, but it seems like around 5 to 8 p.m. is around when we're going to be thinking that our storms are going to be the strongest, and then our instability really starts to fade overnight. And because we don't have a whole lot of strong kinematics to support much severe weather, given this is kind of a weak boundary and a pretty weak surface low here, there is still going to be some storms and some thunder, maybe a couple of instances of damaging winds. But you can see as that cape kind of falls apart and that cap kind of stays in place back over here, at least with this scenario, the storms fall apart relatively quickly. So it's about a 3 to 4 hour window where we could see some stronger storms until it just kind of becomes a non-story overnight. Yeah, let's come back over here. It looks like we lost some people on the map here. Come back over here to Weather Circle and just refresh your post to make sure it's on there, because I do want to go over specific timing with your guys' posts on the map. I should have done that instead of looked at weather-wise. Not weather-wise, but pivotal weather. But I kind of forgot. That's on me. Hello, hello, welcome in. How's everybody's day doing so far? Hopefully you guys are having a good day. How many of you guys have actually thought about the weather since the last time you saw me? Be honest. It's all day Saturday for, it's all day treat Saturday for the dogs though. I feel that. I feel that. What's going on? There we go. What up, Tornado Explorer? This hotel's Wi-Fi is really shippy. It's a little wishy-washy is what you're saying. Every day you think about the weather. Well, you're a weather nerd. So that's to be expected. Only knows about the weather happens if Evan tells me. No, I wouldn't do that. I don't forecast the small events. Like I won't even, you won't see me making a video about the heat because you can just go on an app and see that. That's one of the areas that I admit, yeah, that's been taken by weather apps, because if you just say like on YouTube that like, hey, there's gonna be heat, no one cares. No one cares. You got to act like it's like something weird that's never happened before. Then you get their attention, even though that's most of the time a complete lie. But I will say this high pressure system over here is actually kind of crazy. It is a little bit on the crazy side. But all right, let's go over our timing. Looks like we've had some time for people to come in here. Yeah, it looks like Melody sometime between like 4 and 5 p.m. for you. And Faith Jones maybe could see something, but at least the HRRR is saying no on that front. And then Emily Finch might see some storms develop by like 6 or 7 p.m. But if that capping holds a little bit too strong, you'll probably just get some light rain and thunder. And then this continues down to the south towards into North Grandma by Sunday 7 p.m. And then over there near Alice, Mad Magpie and Squashy, we're talking about over around 9 p.m. And then yeah, that's pretty much everybody that's here on the map. And then the storms kind of fizzle, and then we might get a reinvigoration over here just south of Virginia Beach to there near Wilmington and Myrtle Beach, maybe even as far west as like Columbia and Augusta, as we go into Sunday, or no, Monday, but nothing too crazy. But yeah, I mean, that and the heat is pretty much it. Not a whole lot to talk about. You'll be on the porch. Gotcha. Yeah, I guess we could also talk about the heat here for a little bit. This is the latest GFS run. Yeah, tomorrow looks like it's gonna cool down a little bit back over there in the Central Plains. Around 4 p.m. that a little bit of cooler air is going to make its way into the central United States, and then going into Monday, it's still going to stay relatively cool, but then it warms back up as we move into Tuesday, getting back up in the 80s out here, and then back over into parts of Arizona, still in the 80s to 90s on Tuesday. And then going into Wednesday, got some cooler air making its way into the northeast, maybe a little bit of snow associated with that, and then we get back into those really warm temperatures back out over here into the Central Plains, back into Arizona again, back into those 90s, and some areas getting pretty close to 95 degrees out there as well. Then after Wednesday, looks like we might get a little bit cooler temperatures working their way from the north down to the south yet again. So it's gonna be hot. That's the main story. And also for some folks, it's also gonna be dry. Let me get that warm. Let me get that fired up here just really quick. What the heck? Oh, there it is. Why is this so slow? I still haven't figured out what causes it to be slow. I'm gonna be honest. I'll probably work on that before tomorrow. But yeah, our moistures are mostly going to be in the eastern United States. Continuing back over here near like the Utah area, dew points are going to be in the 20s out there, so it's going to be pretty darn cold. I mean, not pretty darn cold, pretty darn dry back over there in the western United States. Let me see if I turn off the bubbles. Is the bubbles doing it again? Hello, Mr. Bubbles. There we go. It is the bubbles. That's so odd. Okay, that's a lot better. Yeah, back over. It's still very dry in the west. And they're gonna be a little bit more moist off into the eastern United States. And then as I continue to push this forward, you can see we're gonna get a pretty big push of some dry air up there in like Minnesota and Wisconsin. And then by the time we get into Thursday, we could see another push of some drier air moving into like Kansas, Nebraska, and Iowa. What else do we got to look at? Oh, wind gusts. We can look at wind gust. Monday, mainly just some damaging winds being possible. Maybe a small chance for some hail as well. In terms of our wind gusts across the United States, we could get some stronger winds, especially back over there, you know, over in Kansas, up to 40-mile-per-hour winds over there in Texas. You know, if it's still dry and warm out there, might even see a little bit of a fire risk out there as well. And then as I continue to push this forward, you can see those winds move down into the southeast. Not too crazy, but if you're golfing, it's going to be annoying. And then that moves through all the way out of the United States. And then we see yet some more wind pop back up over here into Kansas by the time we get into Tuesday. Nebraska going into Ohio and Wisconsin, potentially could see some 49-mile-per-hour winds. And then going into Wednesday, some more wind down there over there into Texas. So it's going to be somewhat windy. And then as we go into Thursday, potentially even windier with 44-mile-per-hour wind gusts. Maybe a little bit more of an organized system potentially there. Let me check our 500 millibars. Turn on those arrows. Yeah, not really much of a trough there, is there? What about the lower levels? Hello, hello, hello. Gusting already? Yeah, it was actually pretty gusty over here in Alabama today. So we're trying to fight it. My ball. Yeah, maybe a little bit of a trough over there into like central Kansas. Ooh, I'm changing the wind on accident. Didn't mean to do that. Yeah, maybe you know, some winds coming out of the north, and then some winds. I mean, nothing. I'm not seeing any really organized perpendicularity, but you know, you can make an argument that that could spark some severe weather, maybe some damaging wind and a hail potential again. Yeah, that's pretty much all I'm seeing. I mean, it's not a very active period. I'm not gonna lie. Not gonna lie. All right, check out over into the hangout here. Ashley says hi, hello. Mike says in the mess of it, I see. Yeah. Fine Buttface McGee says 95 degrees here. Thank you for the update, Mr. Buttface. Julianne says hi, hello. Diane says 106 right now. Oh yeah, you're back over there. Oof. Yeah, you could keep that there. Not gonna lie. 74 in Statesville, so you guys are doing pretty good. Good evening all. I'm chilling here, glad for the weather break. Same. The rain holds here in Tennessee. I do think we have a little bit of rain. Yeah, it's more off to your east though. Back over here in North Carolina. Also over here, just north of Hickory. The storm over here was actually severe. One thunderstorm warned earlier, but that has been allowed to expire. You here for some education? No, well, we've already done that part of the stream. and we're pretty much done with our forecast. But I do kind of want to call something out. More of just a plea to the weather community, because you guys are starting. I know it's probably like not really anybody that follows me on YouTube that has this much negativity. But I mean, this is just ridiculous. Yeah, get this up here. So I made a post yesterday, honestly, probably a little bit too vague. But the point I was trying to make is that, given the fact that we have more heating and moisture in our atmosphere, on average, our warm front is going to propagate more to the north due to the latent heat transfer from that warmth into the opposing, more dense, cooler air to the north. So our warm front would technically be able to travel more to the north if it's warmer because of global warming. And also because the heat kind of expands that air mass as well, allowing it to spread a little bit more to the north, which is all I was saying. In my opinion, it seems like the warm front, on average, could be a little bit further up to the north, on every storm. So technically, if you get a warm front right here and you get a storm right on that, you're gonna get a tornado report in this area, right? So that would be where your storm is. If it happens 50 miles further up to the north, and in comparison to what it would, actually, let's come back over here. In comparison to what you would, like maybe 50 years ago, 100 years ago, because the warming wasn't nearly as intense across the globe, then, that storm would happen well up further to the north. Pretty simple thing to understand. I do understand that when I said it, it was a little bit vague. But when I posted it, I really wanted to start a conversation about, global warming's potential impacts on where our warm frontal boundaries are, because if the warm front is always technically, you got the same dynamics. You got that low pressure system back over here. You have that upper level wind further to the south coming into the same area, right? You got that cooler air coming in behind. You got, winds coming out of the south here, and the upper levels coming like that, more perpendicular. But your air mass out in front of it is just warmer. And when it's more warmer, it can hold more moisture. For every degree of warming, it can hold about 7% more moisture. Your warm front's just going to naturally reach further up to the north. So technically, because the warm front is such an edge case, it's always that area that denotes where your most warm air and associated with your favorable dew points is denoted. It's a very thin line. It's pretty much always going to be further north. So if a storm latches onto that and produces a tornado, you could easily make the argument that wouldn't have produced a tornado in that same area 100 years ago. And everybody on Twitter, like not a single person for, almost the entirety of the day, not a single person for the entirety of the day said anything positive. Not a single person tried to give a rebuttal, or to say like, what, I understand your perspective, but I think it's this way, or I think global warming doesn't exist. If that's your opinion, then so be it. But if you're only going to be commenting on posts, not giving anything at all, saying shit like this, like, it makes the weather community look like a pile of shit. It really does. You guys look like a bunch of freaking children online, not with apparently no scientific opinions to give. It's just sad. This is supposed to be the weather community where people feel safe on posting their opinions. Imagine being like somebody like, this doesn't affect me. I'm 32 years old. It pisses me off that people cannot put their opinion or try to do their own independent logical deduction without people blowing up their comments and trying to make them feel like crap. It doesn't make me feel like crap because I got thick skin, But what pisses me off about this is that we got a whole younger generation that probably thinks that this is the norm. Why the heck would they ever say their opinion when if you run into a significant group that disagrees with you, instead of telling them that oh, I disagree, and this is why I disagree, and instead they go saying, oh, you're the worst piece of shit in the entire world, fuck you, why the fuck you think that way, I disagree with you, and they just come out with so much vitriol. No one's gonna want to speak their mind anymore. You're shutting up free speech by just coming in and trying to cut these people down, and I think it is disgusting. And I really do believe that there's a lot of people in the weather community. I understand you're really passionate about weather, but use that passion in a way, in an educational way, and don't use it as an opportunity to cut people down. You shouldn't do that. Shouldn't do that at all. You got a difference of opinion, do it. But coming into somebody's post or on someone's post and then just posting, nonstop, just ugly comments and thoughts, like it's not helpful. It's not helpful to the conversation or anything. And honestly, I do believe this is becoming a much more common thing nowadays, and it's really sad to see. It's really sad to see that people can't speak their opinion. I understand if your opinion is racist or something crazy, yeah, you kind of deserve to get reamed for that. But if you're just throwing out a theory out there that is actually based in thermodynamic science and all of that, you shouldn't be dragged to the mud just because people disagree with you. Let's have a scientific debate. Let's not go and try to cut to bring someone down by death by 1,000 cuts. It's just not the way. You got a difference of opinion, say so, totally open. And I kept on going. I kept on replying to these people and trying to tell them, it's okay, well, if you want to talk about it, we can talk about it. The reason why I posted it is because I wanted to do a debate about it. I didn't think that I was 100% right. I just wanted to get my thoughts out there in a quick and easy way. You got 140 characters to do so I couldn't go into all the scientific words that I would have wanted to say. But I feel really bad for the younger generation, because this is unacceptable behavior, and this is going to completely shut down people that are trying to get passionate in the weather. Why would they want to be part of a community that cuts each other down so often over something that is so small? It's so sad. And I just wanted to call that out because I really do think a lot of people in the weather community need an attitude check. They really do. It's usually paraded by people that have a lot of followers. They get very egotistical, and they think that they're the king of the world and that everybody else is beneath them. And they're the ones that usually start these parades. And then you usually have some people in the younger generation probably having no idea what they're talking about, that actually don't have any legitimate rebuttals, but are just kind of following a hate train just to, be with the crowd, which, has always been a popular thing in the younger generation. But I would stress and at least give my advice, if you are, somebody that typically hops on those bandwagons, I would think about it the next time, how you may be impacting that person's life. For me, it's not really a big deal. I'm used to the hate, trust me. I used to call out Ryan Hall on Twitter before it was cool, and people used to just bury me in my comment sections all the time with their crazy theories, like, oh, you're jealous, yada yada yada, even though I literally worked for the man and saw all the inner workings. And but for somebody that doesn't have a thick skin and you do this to them, that could severely impact the trajectory of their life. They could go from being super passionate about weather, and maybe they're the next Ted Vegeta, and then you shit on them and they never touch weather again. You never touch weather. They would never touch weather again. That's why it's unacceptable. We need to be encouraging. I'm not asking for a kindergarten playground type behavior where everybody's complimenting on everybody, but to so openly try to shit on somebody and make their life worse for expressing a really undramatic opinion. is nuts. Is nuts, and you're never gonna see people post those opinions in the future because everybody's just gonna shit on them, and it's sad. But I just wanted to get that off my chest. The forecast is over. But yeah, you know, I'm just asking. This is my plea. Honestly, I don't care. I mean, y'all can, you know, if you have big anger issues and you have to do this, then continue to do it on my posts. Okay, come over to my post and talk shit because I don't give a fuck. But please don't go to like these new people that are joining the weather community and shit on them, because again, we have so many bright minds out there, and if people are constantly cutting people down and stepping on people's head just because they want to be number one, like you're ruining the entire community for attention. That's it. All you want to do is be that guy with the spotlight on you, and you're willing to step on everybody's heads. You're not gonna be, you know, like you might be something good, but you're not going to be able to spread that good if you're hating on everybody. So yeah, that's all I got to say. That's my 2 cents. Evan, please stop. No. I speak my mind when I want. And that's my opinion. I'm trying to protect the younger generations, man. I feel so bad for them that they gotta go through that every time. You stand on business too, as you should. As you should. Never let anybody step down on you. You know, how do they know? Like, we are only judgment of our own character. You know what you're capable of, and you know what you've done and what you've accomplished. You know, people like to look in from the outside in and just on the cover of the book and not the inside of it and read, you know, the story of who you are. And people like to judge because they're lazy. They don't want to do the research. They just want to jump to conclusions and make you feel like crap just to make themselves feel better for a couple of seconds before they go back into what is likely a miserable life. So never let anybody talk down to you and treat you like crap. You know, or if they do, and you know, don't let it affect you, because they don't know you. And it really sucks. It really sucks that in today's society, you know, in what was something that was supposed to be something so cool, where we could all stay connected in a faster and easier way, has turned into mass manipulation, misinformation, and people's avenue to tear people down who are trying to do good work in our communities. I don't care, Kaylin. You can go somewhere else. You can go. This is my channel. This is my channel. If I want to vent or talk about something, I'm gonna do it. You don't have to be here and watch. I literally don't care. I'm not just here to give forecasts. I want to help shape the weather community into a place that is full of empathy and love and care and respect, you know. And I feel like people should be standing up for that more often, instead of, you know, just allowing this stuff to happen or to bandwagon on it. So, you know, and I appreciate it, but don't tell me to shut up when I'm talking. That's very rude. But anyways, I just wanted to get that off my chest. It's something that happened yesterday, and like I totally understand if if you disagree with me. That's that. Honestly, I live and breathe for people to tell me that I'm wrong because I like it. I like debating about new things. I like to think about things that haven't really been thought about before, but I never know if I'm correct. That's why I like to throw out a bunch of crazy theories because, I absolutely love opening up discussion and seeing if we can learn something about it. That's never going to happen is if as soon as you disagree with somebody, you shit on them. So, oh no, I'm good. Like I said, I'm good. I'm just worried about, I'm worried about the people that don't have thick skin and how that could affect them to get dog piled like that. So anyways, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Hopefully, I know some of you guys probably joined in at the end, but if you do want to forecast for tomorrow's thread, the entire first half of this live stream was talking about that. Usually when I'm done with the live stream and answering questions, we usually don't talk about stuff like this, but given the fact that happened and I don't really want to stay silent, so that, hopefully to inspire some people to not do that the next time, some, anthill type drama comes up. Hopefully I can inspire some people to, take a sideline or maybe even reach out to that person and, be like, hey, are you okay? I know I've seen a lot of people dogpiling on you, are you doing all right? Instead of just instantly hopping on the bandwagon, actually like, offering a hand to help. But anyways, you guys are awesome as always. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I will see y'all on the next one. Probably, I might even go live tomorrow. I'm thinking about going live tomorrow. I mean, it's probably going to be a day that doesn't really, meet my usual criteria to go live, but there's just not going to be a whole lot of opportunities to go live, I think, for the rest of March. So I might just go live tomorrow just to hang out and to, tell people what the heck's going on with their weather. You bring your nunchucks. You shouldn't have to keep your mouth shut. Being open to being wrong is smart. I mean, it's not necessarily smart or dumb. It's just how you should always approach life. You're not always going to be 100% correct. People are going to disagree with you, which should be viewed as a peaceful thing. Disagree. I don't know where it started, but it does seem like maybe like a decade or two ago, especially with like social media, something about social media disconnects the person from reality. Because I could tell you this, if I was in a room full of those people that commented on that post, they would not have said, none of them would have came up to me and said what they said to me on Twitter. I can guarantee you that. And so I just don't get it. I honestly don't get it. Treat them like they're a real person. The person behind the screen is also a real person too, Anyways, y'all have a good rest of your night, and I'll probably see y'all tomorrow. Peace.